Well, it seems like we gardeners are continually at odds with the weather. You know, earlier in the season, we were just inundated with excessive rainfall, and it was so late with many of us getting out in our gardens that we had trouble. Now we're battling the same types of things on the reverse side of the fact, in that it's been so dry and so hot for so long here in the state that we really have to look at some ways that we can conserve water. And we have a couple of types of soaker hose I want to show you today that are excellent ways of conserving water in the garden and getting the best utilization of what water you do have. We'll talk about those in just a few minutes, but I want to point out some things on our day neutral strawberries first, because that's where we're using one of these soaker hose. You know, we planted some day neutral strawberries earlier in the season. We planted Tribute and TriStar, two new varieties that are on the market now. These are not ever-bearing, but they're day neutral and they set flowers throughout most of the growing season. Now, we knew that these were going to be heat sensitive and probably would not get any fruit or very little fruit during the hottest part of the summer, but actually they've done much better than we thought they would. On this variety here, which is the Tribute, we're getting a number of flowers now, and I suspect we'll have some fruit set on these fairly soon, even though it has been extremely hot. You know, we've had several days, in fact a couple of weeks, of really high 90 and low 100 temperatures. Also on this variety, we're pleased to see that it's putting out a good supply of runners, and we weren't really sure how good of a runner former this plant would be, but we're real pleased with these, and I think we're going to see some pretty good results of these flowers a little bit later on in the season, and we'll have some fruit this summer and fall. Now let's come back to these in just a few minutes and talk about water conservation, but now let's look at a type of watering system we have here on our blueberries, and this is a soaker hose. Some of you may have these in your gardens, and if you don't, I would suggest you might want to get one of these, because this is a good way to water in an area where you want to have a limited water supply, and where you're really wanting to direct it to the area that you want watered. These are hoses that are made out of old recycled tires, so they're certainly something that we are concerned about the environment would want to use. These are porous types of materials that can be simply laid about in serpentine among the plant areas, and when you turn them on to the water hose, then you'll see little pimples of water beginning to form, and then finally this whole thing will become wet, and you'll have a slight ooze of water coming out all along the area that you want to water. Now the advantage of this, of course, is that you have very little evaporation. You put the water on the soil or around the plant where you want it, where it's directed to, and also it uses a very low water pressure. A normal water coming out of a hose or hydrant is about 20 pounds per square inch, but you only need to use about 3 to 7 pounds per square inch of pressure on these types of hose. And then also the good thing about this is that they're constructed so that you can add different lengths onto them. Each end of them will have a cap on it, and this cap can be removed, and so you can spread these out about as far as you want to. So this is the soaker hose. Now the hose that we've got over here on the strawberries, the one that I really like, is called a soak and spray. And you'd want to use this in an area where you also want to cool the plants or raise the humidity around them, like we're doing on our strawberries. These strawberries are going to benefit from added cooling, from a higher humidity, in order to promote more flowers. And in this particular one, it's very similar, except that as it also soaks, it also has a fine spray that comes out, which helps to mist the plants that you're, whatever, flowers or vegetables or fruit or whatever you're wanting to water this way, and thereby cooling the atmosphere. Again, working on a very, very low pressure system. This would be good to use around something like strawberries where they do benefit from the added cooling. It would also be an excellent hose that you could use in your azalea beds or in any other area where you want to do some cooling. Furthermore, a good way to conserve water and make good utilization of your water, of course, is through mulching. And that's what we're doing here on our strawberries. We've already mulched a lot of our garden this year, but if we go ahead and mulch around these strawberries and even mulch over this hose, we're not only reducing water loss from evaporation, but we're also helping to cool the soil and stabilize the temperatures around the plant. And I guess I'm the world's biggest pack rat when it comes to gardening, but I always like to save my things and use them as often as I can. The mulch I'm using here is mulch that we removed from our regular strawberry bed earlier in the season when we did some renovating, and it's chopped up real fine and begun to decompose, and it just makes an excellent mulch for these strawberries here. Well, I want to encourage you to look at your garden centers and at the garden areas of your discount stores for some of these types of soaker hose and water saving devices. because I really think that it is money not only well spent, but a good investment in your garden when you look at ways to conserve water and use water wisely in the garden, particularly when temperatures have been as hot as they've been recent.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.